Hi, everyone. This is Jillian from Jewish Workshops. I am thrilled to be joining all of you today, and we are extremely privileged to have Rebbetzin Tziporah Heller on the line with us. Before we get started, I'd love to see who's joining us and where you're from. So if you can go to your question box and put your name and where you're joining us from, I'd love to be able to welcome you. I would also like to give a huge shout out to Rebbetzin Heller's ongoing community. Our members are here joining us today as well. So please go ahead and just write member next to your name. I'd love to be able to welcome you and shout that out too. So welcome. Leora from Jerusalem, Maya from Toronto, Javi from Muncie, Faith from Atlanta. Welcome, Marnie from Johannesburg, and Jill from Jacksonville, Florida. Ooh, I really hope that the hurricane didn't hit you and everything is okay over there. Jen from Georgia, welcome. Romy from Los Angeles, Yafa, welcome. Ellen from Geneva, Alana from Zurich, Yael from Baltimore, Naomi from Jerusalem. Welcome, Devora from New York, and Marcy from Chicago, Gila from Yerushalayim, Kelly from Houston, Texas. Welcome, Bethany from Florida, Carol from Georgia, who's a member of our community. Welcome. Welcome, Eileen, Estelle from Johannesburg, Ashley from Richmond, Nechama from Maryland, Alana from Texas, Elisheva from Muncie, Michael from Vancouver, Rena from Queens, Alexa from New York City. Welcome, Winnie from England, Richard from Israel, Mary Ellen from Milwaukee. Let's see. Wow, we have so many people coming in. Welcome to everyone. Let me see if I can get to a few more here. Welcome, Celia from the UK and Alvin from California, Aviva from Johannesburg, Golda from Jerusalem, Marcy from Dayton. Welcome, Talia from New York, Alex from Moscow, Laura from Johannesburg, Diane from Delaware, Miriam from North Miami, who's also a member. Welcome. Dale from Wisconsin, Johnny from San Francisco, Susan from Boston. Welcome, welcome to everyone. This is absolutely amazing. As people continue to join from all over the world, I want to offer a huge welcome. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. It's absolutely incredible to see how many different places from all across the globe are being represented here today. So it's really nice to see. As people continue to come in, I just want to remind you, please do not leave in the middle of the webinar. It's very hard to get back in once we hit capacity. You may be locked out, and we have so much to go over today. Leading up to today's event, we had 2,000 people signed up, and now we are here poised and ready to enter the new year as our most elevated selves. In order to do so, Rebbetzin Heller will guide us through the next hour with her words of wisdom and unique insights, and spend time at the end addressing as many questions as possible live on the line. Some of you may know and some of you may be new, but we love to make our webinars as interactive as possible. So please don't hesitate to come right back here to your question box and put in your questions. As I mentioned, we will get to as many as possible at the very end. Also, make sure to stay on so that you can hear about the opportunity to join Rebbetzin Heller week after week for a full transformation leading up to the Yom Tovim. It is truly an honor to be hosting Rebbetzin Heller today. Rebbetzin Heller is internationally known as a gifted lecturer, educator, and mentor, touching the lives of thousands across the world. Rebbetzin Heller has been a full-time faculty member at Neve Yerushalayim since 1980 and is the author of several books, including This Way Up, More Precious Than Pearls, and Let's Face It. As a well-sought-after speaker, we are so fortunate that she is here with us today. So without further ado, welcome, Rebbetzin Heller. I would love to go ahead and pass the microphone over to you.
Okay, it's great to be here. Elul, it's such a wonderful time to be involved with all of you. I'm really happy to be here. So today, what we're going to be talking about is figuring yourself out, getting a sense of your own identity. So this is a prerequisite to anything else. So we're going to talk first about Cheshbon Nefesh. I want to show you the book I'm using. Okay, this book, Return, is a book I wrote, but it's not original. It's from other people's works, early scholars, later scholars, and it has a great deal of wisdom in it. Okay, so if you want to know who you are, okay, begin by making a life review. Now that sounds so difficult. So I want to give you a method that works. Okay. So it take around 20 minutes a day, not more, just for the first few days, and this could change your whole future. So what you do is you divide your life into eras: early childhood, later childhood, adolescence, and onwards. And here's what you do then. Let's say you're looking at early childhood. Let's say you remember well from age 3, 4, and you're going all the way up to 6. So you're going to ask yourself 4 questions, and these are the same questions you'll be asking when you review further periods of your life. The first question is easy. What are the main events I remember? So when I do this for myself and I'm thinking about my early childhood, I remember going to the country. I remember long afternoons sitting in the fields just watching the clouds. I remember nursery. I remember kindergarten, not nursery school. I remember the golden books that were very popular in that era. Dr. Dan, the Bandage Man, and Joseph and his brothers. A few of them come back to me. And I remember not liking my first grade teacher, Mrs. Neary. She was strict and also being it was very hard for me socially. I was an only child. It was very hard for me in first grade, more than in kindergarten, to know how to interact with other children. But I did make friends in the end. Those are the events. So now, while we're online, I'll give you 2 minutes, and we'll start with early childhood, because this is the easiest period of your life to know. I'll give you, not 2 minutes, a minute. I want you to think about the most important events you remember from your early childhood. Okay, so now that you did this, you might want to write it down because you're going to refer to it later. And the more you could actually be there, like I could remember the color of the clothes I was wearing. I could remember being in kindergarten, the doll corner and the building blocks corner. Try to be detailed, because the more detailed you do, the more detailed it is, then the more you'll gain from it. So Seema asks an important question. Do we do this every year, even if you've done it before? Maybe. It depends on how well you did it initially. And if you did, you don't have to start from early childhood, but you will have to start from your more recent history. Okay. So some of you are sharing your memories. Ashley's talking about being in the country. Javi about Mora Blanca. Next. Now, you made no judgment here. You didn't say, was it good or was it bad? Okay, so here's the second question you asked. There were going to be 4. How did I respond to what was going on? What choices did you make? So I remember in my childhood, again, I was very passive. Here I am. I could see myself watching the clouds. Did it occur to me to do anything? No, I did very, very few things. I would catch salamanders. I would accompany my mother as she did things, but I was passive. I remember my response to kindergarten being just to play. I didn't, again, even think about making friends in kindergarten. And I also remember in first grade, my response to Mrs. Neary, the teacher I didn't like, was again passive. I don't think I even told my mother that I didn't like her. I was afraid of her. Now, if your childhood memories are bad, just keep it going, because learning your responses to this and the other things we'll ask are important. So the second question is, what were my responses? Those are the 2 easy questions. What happened and what were my responses? Okay, now you get to the hard questions. Of the choices you made, which ones are choices that you still see yourself making now and are part of your character and are getting you closer to where you want to be as a person, and which choices that you made keep you further from being who you want to be. Look at your actual choices. Okay, so Gila wants me to repeat the second question. I will. It's examine your responses. Okay, Brina asks, given of an age range for each of the years, it's up to you. It's up to you. It could be 20 years, could be 5 years. It's up to you. So I'll give you an example of this. I remember, again, my responses were basically passive. I felt things strongly, but on the outside, you couldn't see anything. I wasn't communicative. I wasn't active. Did this get me where I want to go? No, it didn't get me where I wanted to go in life. And I'm very grateful for this, that later on, when I was older and I went to camp, and my co-counselor, Rivki Greenstein, encouraged me to use my talents and abilities, then I got to be less afraid. But it took all of those years. So that tells me that I don't have an intuitive sense of how to interact with people, and it's something that needs to be overcome and dealt with continually. Okay, Faith says, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by examine my responses. Okay, so nursery school, Santa Claus gave you crayons. What did you do with the crayons? You want to be a nurse in the hospital. Okay, the teacher welcomed you back. How did you respond to be welcomed? Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, now, and here's the fourth part. The fourth part is the important part. This is what everything leads to. Okay, the fourth part is, what were you thinking when you made bad choices, choices that did not get you where you want to go? What were you thinking when you made good choices? So again, in my early childhood, I know what my thoughts were because they were very specific. My thoughts that led me to passivity was, if I do something wrong, then they, whoever they are, they won't like me, or they'll laugh at me, so I better be quiet. My better responses that were more active and were somewhat later also were, I can do it, whatever it is. So once you know that, and you follow this through all of the different eras of your life, what you're going to discover is that your thoughts probably have not changed that much. So this gives you a mirror to who you are. Are you still a person who? Okay, and people say, oh, I'm just like everybody. It's not true. When people do this, they get very, very different responses. Okay, so this is the first step towards knowing yourself. So when you're talking about change, your goal is to get back to your higher self and better self, and to work through the impediments. So what are these impediments? The impediments are blockages constructed by your less developed self. So what you'll notice is that the feelings themselves are not the problem. In both cases with myself as a child, what did I want? I wanted acceptance. That's not a problem. The problem was what I did about it. Run away from fear of lack of acceptance, or go towards acceptance. Okay, so someone asked about the third question. The third question is, examine your choices. Examine them. And what do I mean by examine them? Which choices that you made in a given era got you closer to being who you want to be today, and which choices got you further away from being what you want to be today. Now be careful about one thing. Guilt paralyzes. You're not making any judgment here. You're just saying this is what happened. Probably when you were a child or a young adult or whatever you're looking at. Probably you're doing the best that you could at the time. But you could still learn what things move you forward and what things don't. Rhonda asked to have things repeated one more time, so I will. So the first thing is examine each era of your life. And I said, don't try to do your whole life at once. Examine your responses was number 2. Examine your choices was number 3. And finally, notice your thought processes, which is the most important part. Okay, so again, the goal here is not guilt. Okay. So Miriam asked, is that like listening to the voice of an abuser? I don't understand your question. Okay, if you could make it, if you could give me more words to go by. I don't know what you mean. Okay, so take any choice that was out of your reality off your guilt list. Just leave yourself with noticing what thought patterns take you where you want to be and what thought patterns take you to where you don't want to be. Okay, so in my book, I gave a different example from a different period in my life. Okay, so I'll read what I wrote. Okay, I'm an idealistic person. This means if I believe in something, I'll go for it. My worst trait is I don't carefully examine whether I have ego involvement in what I choose. Okay, both of these outcomes come from the same root of wanting to choose what's right. I want to be right because over the years, doing what's right, which has its roots and I want it to be accepted, is very important. But I can get ego involved. So I have to notice this. Okay, if I want positive change, I have to still value the idealism without letting myself be ego involved. Okay, I gave another example. Somebody asked what page I'm on. If you have the book, please look. You could look at it as we go. Page 8. Okay, so okay, so then okay, so whatever you do when you're an idealist, you tend to do in extremes. So I'm going to share with you what my first day in school was like in Beis Yaakov of Bnei Brak. What's the name of my book? Return. Okay, so here I was, straight out of high school. Okay, I got off the plane. The school arranged for a girl from Argentina who spoke English to pick me up at the airport. And the first clue I had of Israel being really different, besides the extreme heat, was she wanted to buy me a drink, and she bought me black beer, which in America nobody drinks. So I got to the principal's office. He had to place me. They had several parallel classes. He wanted to be nice and friendly, and he asked me a few questions. And the language he was speaking to me was in Yiddish. Now that made sense to do under the circumstances, because I went to a school in America where Yiddish was used freely. And he had my report cards. He knew I understood Yiddish. Okay, but I had my own ideals because I'm an idealist. So I said, I don't want to speak a language of the diaspora. I want to speak the language of our people's return. I only want to speak Ivrit. So he immediately sized me up as an ego-driven idealist, which is absolutely true. Okay, so Miriam gave us more words. If someone abused you and you listen to what they said over and over and over again, you get closer to that or further of that just by being who you are naturally. No, this ran into somebody else's thing. They say over and over again, it continues its effect on you. Right, this is why I'm asking you to focus on your response rather than what was happening. What was happening was the abuse. How did you respond to the abuse? Which of your responses were good, meaning you rejected it? Which of them were bad, etc.? Alex writes, when you're a child, you don't really know who you want to be. How do you know if your choices were getting you closer to that or further away versus just being who you are naturally? You're absolutely right, Alex. As a child, there's no way you could do this. It's only now as an adult that you could look at your childhood and see the roots of your present personality. Okay, now when you realize that some of your choices now are not choices that you're comfortable with, so what do you do then? What do you do then? Okay, so the first thing you have to do is to realize what's your goal. Your goal is to be your actualized self. the best person who you could be, and you have some ideas of what that is. So you don't want impediments to stand in your way. So one of the biggest impediments that there are is substituting blame for growth. Blame has a place. You may be who you are because of external events. Again, that's why I said the first thing you ask is what? What happened? What happened has an effect on you. What they said, what they did, where you were, okay, it all has an effect on you. But then you have to move on. You don't stay with what happened. You then go to, and how did I respond? Is it were my responses then the responses I want to hold on to or not? Were there good responses I want to nurture? Maybe yes. And what was I thinking? And what was I feeling? These are incredibly important questions. So your big impediment is staying in question number one forever, which people can do. Another problem that comes forth from blaming is denial that you have any problem at all. Okay, you replace blame, which comes from the first question, what happened? My mother was critical, my father was violent, my brother abused me, my sister had polio, what else could have happened? My family had to move because my father lost his job. I never had friends, okay, whatever. This all may be true. But what concerns you is how you responded to it. Which of your responses got you closer to who you want to be, and which of your responses get you further? Again, the first question is important, but don't stay there. Okay, so somebody wrote, let me just see what it says here. Oh, this is a long story. So someone is sharing. I'm not going to read all of the things that you're sharing, but I will read some of them. I was a young child, under 10. I took something, maybe candy from a store. It wasn't worth much. The store wasn't close to my house, but I was so upset with myself that I made my father walk back to the store so I could pay for it. Okay. So yashras and honors were extremely important. I couldn't tolerate my guilty feelings. But of course, I was embarrassed to tell my father and to face the shopkeeper. But I did so. Okay, so what this is saying, this is Bonnie's story. What Bonnie is saying is that what happened was that she took something. Now, she would have to go for, and why did she take it? Because it was there. But her response was guilt. Now, this is an important thing to notice. Guilt could be good or guilt could be bad. Guilt could make her hate herself, or guilt could redeem her. She was brave enough to give it back, the candy. Okay, so you have to move away. Okay, so you have to ask yourself when you're looking at things that involved other people. You always have to take responsibility for your role because that's what makes you yourself. The fact that somebody else was wrong or abusive or unbalanced or whatever label you want to give them. And the labels could be accurate. I don't want to suggest that they're not accurate. Whatever label you give them doesn't change who you are. You have to look at yourself. So at that point, you'll say, if in response to doing something that someone else did or some situation arose, I did things that are not good for me. I don't want to be that person. It's not taking me where I want to go. Fix it. If it's fixable, fix it. So it means if out of your defensiveness you hurt someone's feelings, be brave enough to ask their forgiveness. Okay, what's your goal in asking forgiveness? Your goal isn't to make yourself feel like a righteous person. Your goal is to make it up to the other person. Whenever you hurt another person, you lower their self-esteem. When you ask them forgiveness, you build up their self-esteem. So you're fixing what you broke. So to use the words of the sages in the Talmud, okay, you replace bundles of sin with bundles of mitzvot, meaning the affirmative person, the good person, is basically the same as the bad person, but you're using all of the traits that you're using in the wrong way now for the right way. Okay, so another thing that you have to know when you're dealing with yourself, okay, you have to be honest with yourself. So those, again, if we're following the book, we're up to page 10. Okay, so being honest with yourself when you're dealing with things that you now regret. What does that mean? Again, first step, what happened? Be honest about what happened. If your response wasn't that great, don't change the story. Okay, then there's your response. Okay, realize people don't get out of bed in the morning wanting to harm you. They're also complex. Look at your response, okay? And commit yourself not to being reactive. So it means if you don't like how someone is, you don't like what they said, you don't like what they did, don't become them. So now we have two rules. Our first rule is don't stick with number one. Don't stay with what happened. That's just the beginning. The second rule, and this is a very important rule, don't become what you hate. Somebody is vengeful, don't become vengeful back just to show them. Someone is angry and shouts at you, don't shout back just to show them that you could also shout back and you're just as strong as they are. Somebody is dishonest, you don't have to be dishonest with them. Why? Because you don't want to become that. You have to choose what you want to become and live with that choice. Don't hand your choice of who you want to become to any person or to any circumstance. So when you look at the Holocaust survivors who made it emotionally, and there are a lot of them, they're the ones who at some point were able to say exactly this. Those are my circumstances, and I'm going to choose who I want to be. They were cruel, I'll be kind. I felt alone, I'll be warm, I'll be friendly. I felt deprived, I'll see that I have, and I'll see that other people have. Don't become what you hate. Becoming what you hate is a consequence of what we call being reactive. So this exercise of self-knowledge is made to give you a sense of who you are when you're not reacting to somebody else, when you're actually seeing yourself. Okay, next. Okay, it's good for you to take care of yourself. You're the only one you have, after all. So what do I mean in this context? Okay, let's say your reaction was reactive. No matter what the other person did, you take responsibility for yourself. See that it's okay. See that your response was okay. There are people who could never apologize. Do you know people who could never apologize? I'm just curious to see how many yeses I'm going to get there. I know people who could never apologize. Okay, so in case you know people who can't apologize, I see if the questions stopped coming in, so I don't know if something is wrong with the thing or not, whatever. Okay, if you're in a place where you know people who can never, ever apologize. Okay, now they're coming in. Okay, realize you don't want to be one of them. Why not? Because you're not taking care of yourself if you can't apologize. If you apologize, you're fixing yourself. So people wrote in. Jackie writes, I think people doubt the idea that one has a choice in what they think or feel. You could choose your reaction. Absolutely, yes, you can. Okay, Malky asks, do they sell the book in London? Yes, in the Jewish stores. Okay, Miriam asks, so if I did something small as an 8-year-old, but know I was wrong and still feel guilty about it, do I have an obligation to rectify it? Or just learn for it and not do it again? So technically, I mean, realistically, children are irrational, as you know, and have very little self-control. So are you halakhically obliged to return what you stole as an 8-year-old? Maybe you are. But in terms of tracing what your identity is, you had your identity when you were 8. So it's worth doing this because it's you now who is built by the person who you were then. Sophia asks an important question. If I'm already 80, is there still a point to this exercise? Sophia, and I want to hear the rest of you say something encouraging in response. You're not dead. You got it, Sophia? You're 80. You're not dead. Of course there's point in this exercise. Okay. Alex asks, could you give us a good definition for how to achieve forgiveness when someone hurt you, but you don't speak to them anymore? Okay, so in terms of what your obligation is, what it looks like for yourself is recognizing that everybody has challenges in life, and who you become is authored to a great deal by how you respond to those challenges. So the other person could be completely wrong, and you may be right in having cut them out of your life. You may be right in not forgiving them in a certain sense. You're obligated to protect yourself. But you have to ask, who do I want to be? Do I want to be a person who obsesses about this? Do I want to be a person who bears a grudge, who mentally plans revenge? Or do I want to let go of it? Yes, he's a flawed person. That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay, taking this further, 1 minute, I see one more question that came in. Replacing blame with what? With noticing who you want to be and being that. Okay, now let's go further. Okay, so part of taking care of yourself, okay, which as I said means taking responsibility for your part in anything, okay, you may not have the courage to do it. Let's be honest. You may not have the courage, maybe too painful. So you're thinking of either ignoring the situation or going defensive, or what's another thing you could do? Lying. Lying often works. That's why people lie all the time. It's so effective. Okay, lying to yourself, lying to others. So if you don't have the courage to ask someone forgiveness face to face, use an email, send a text. Are you ready? Send snail mail. Okay, actually write a letter. But you don't have to face them if you don't have the courage to. But realize it's if you have to face a little humiliation, that really could be what changes you more than anything else. Okay, so telling yourself again and again, it's worth it for me to suffer this humiliation to become the person I want to be, could be an enormously empowering mentality. So there's a huge difference in the way people feel when they choose to be forgiving and they choose the path of humiliation, or they're forced into it. I'm not saying let the other person force you into it. I'm saying you could choose it, and it could be very empowering. So an example of that would be, let's say you have a rabbi who makes a mistake in a decision that he makes. And he has to publicly either rectify it and say, I was wrong, I said the wrong thing, I made the wrong decision. Or he could sort of thump around and say, oh, there's an alternative opinion, blah, blah, blah. Or he could be defensive. Think of how empowered he would feel if he says, the truth is, I made a mistake. It's enormously empowering. Why? Because you notice that what happens if you could admit a mistake? You survive, and you see that you're not dependent on whether other people respond to you as you would like. You have a self that isn't about what other people tell you you are. This is a hugely empowering thing. Okay? Now, sometimes when you're going through your life, you'll discover that you did material damage to people. So material damage also has to be replaced. There's no statute. I got a lot of yeses in for telling us, our dear friend, that she is still alive. Yes, indeed. Okay? So actually says that there actually is a rabbi who doesn't apologize. He's probably not strong enough to. Okay, and what book is this? It's called Return. Okay, so Maya says very correctly, people who can't apologize have low self-esteem. That's exactly it. Okay. Sometimes the other person is not a safe person. They'll use your apology against you. If you, again, you're not obligated to harm yourself. If you're talking about they're using the apology against you in a way in which you'll be physically or materially harmed, then don't apologize. But if you're talking about them being nasty to you, being abusive verbally, live with it. Okay. Okay. My husband is incapable of apologies. He turns the situation around to be my fault. So that's not unusual. That's the first thing you should know. What does that say about him? It says about him that he can't handle blame. That's what it says. It says about him he can't handle it. And because of this, he's afraid. So the more aggressive you are in your demands for him to make any changes, then the more likely it is for him to be unresponsive or negatively responsive. You have to make him feel that if he's ready to apologize for something, that he gains esteem from you rather than loses esteem, and that you have to be honest with yourself about whether this is really what's happening. If you're going to say he's gaining esteem and he's losing esteem, then it's not, the whole thing's not working, isn't working. Let's go further. Okay. So actions affect thoughts. So until now we said, get to know who you are. And we spoke about making a life review with the 4 things. I'm going to give you more information. Okay? So take everything we did until now, put it to the side. Here's an alternative way of figuring yourself out. There are 5 things other than what you do and how you respond that make you the person who you are today. One of them is your heredity. So the way you were born is the way you were born. Okay, we know now through all of the entire brilliantly definable research that we've done in genetics, how much of who you are is defined from when you were conceived. In addition to that, there's your environment. So here's what I want you to do, everyone who's listening. Okay, this is going to be very different than what you may have done before. I'll give you a minute like I did before. I want you to think of 5 positive things that you learned from your environment. Your environment includes your family, your early childhood, your school, your friends, your spouse, your workplace, places you've been, things that you've seen. What are 5 positives that you learned from your environment? I'll give you a whole minute to think of that. Okay, I want to tell you something that will happen. First of all, I want to see a little poll. How many of you came up with 5 things? Well, a lot of stuff just came in. I'm going to read the stuff that came in a minute, but I first just want to see how many of you were able to do this. Okay, so some 5 yes, some positive things, need more time. Not that many of you did, it's hard, but I want to tell you what you're going to discover if you do this. You will discover, definitely, okay, 100%, that the positive things that you gained from your environment are things that you could have, under other circumstances, defined as negative. Okay, so my parents were extremely honest when it came to everything financial. Okay, the flip side of that is not being so spontaneous, because these 2 traits don't tend to live in the same body. Okay, So choose to learn positive things from what's going on around you. I want to read the things that just came in, and let's see if I could find them. Okay, just a second. Oh, wow, a lot is coming in right now. I have to read, or you guys have so much to say. I have to really keep my mouth closed a little bit and read your stuff. One moment. Okay. If someone says that they forgive you without being forced into it, but they don't, like they really forgive you or really forgiven, this happened to me, and I feel like I still need to ask forgiveness. I don't even know what I did to upset the person. Okay, so people often will say, I forgive you, because it sounds nice to be a forgiving person. You could ask them 3 times and then let go. Sometimes the other person is not a safe person. We spoke about that. Okay. What if, this is an important question, Sarah Katzen asked this. What if bringing up past problems bring pain to the other person or can endanger the relationship? Is there a better way to seek forgiveness? Absolutely. If it's going to do harm, don't do this. Don't do this. Just sweeten the relationship. As I said, replace the painful stuff with good. Replace the sins with mitzvot. Don't ask forgiveness if it'll make things work. How can we pay back a company that's no longer in business? How to apologize to people who are no longer living? So the technical way to deal with this is to find out what happened to the business, who inherited it, and if that's possible. If not, you give the money to a public charity. Okay, to apologize to people who are no longer living, if it's something significant, you are supposed to go to their grave and ask their forgiveness with a minyan. If this is too overwhelmingly big, then ask a rav for something a bit smaller. If one speaks to a friend about something they're doing that doesn't make the friendship true and fair, the friend apologizes but continues her behavior exactly as before the discussion. Obviously, the words were not internalized. Okay, so, and there's more to this question, but we're running low on time, so I'm going to be brief. So I want to tell you what happens at that point. What happens at that point is you have a choice. Your choice is to see your friend with all of their human complexity and forgive them, or to hold on to being who you don't want to be. You make your choice. Okay. So now people are talking about what they learned. Okay, Arthur was brought upside down literally. Okay, Chavi thanks her parents, honesty, epigenetics, Torah mitzvahs, manners. Sarah doesn't understand the question. Okay, it's what you learn from your environment that's positive. For my parents' family, our community, firm boundaries, strong sense of self-worth, strong values, achnosis orchim, rofei cholim. Okay. What happens if you feel really hurt by someone, not just once, but several times, but they have no idea? I keep on trying to tell myself to let it go. If I raise the issue up, it'll just make me look like a lesser person. I'm just wondering how to respond clearly as I'm struggling to let go of the issues. And I find myself wanting to walk away from the friendship. If someone says that they forgive you without being, oh, I'm sorry, we read that. So the truth is, telling somebody that something is wrong does make you somewhat vulnerable, but it's okay. You could be vulnerable. Now I'm getting all the good stuff. Yes, Romy found 5 things, and Arthur found things, and Rabokar Partful, PhD, found good things. I'm happy to hear from you. Rhonda, okay, said. Miriam said yes. Mary Ellen said yes. Rako Zanana says V. And Hannah only came up with 2. And some people came up with 4. And Larry came up with 22. Jan says integrity, caring, doing things that you could put our name on, intelligence, thoughtfulness. Okay. So Sarah said, explain more clearly the good things you learn from your environment. Keeping the bar low. Valuing family, being happy with little, love of Hashem, being grateful, looking for the positive in everything. Social skills, Kurt says, which is very important, and you won't be disappointed. Kindness, trying your best to be honest. The importance of family, learning, creativity. Look at all of these things. Now, I want to say something that I consider very important. How do you feel? Not what did you learn. How do you feel when you go back to these things? Don't you feel happy? Don't you feel empowered? Don't you feel capable? So this is part of tshuva, okay? And I know here's another one. Here's another 5. Let me just see. Who is this? From Rabbi Karpov, I could use my intellect to change things, empowering to be honest, can be empowering to choose to be kind. Yes. This too cannot last. There are 5. There are answers in the Torah and the Masoret. So how could these be negative? I will tell you. Thinking that you could solve everything with your intellect. Okay, I'm sure you've known people who are intellectual unrealists. Okay, is it empowering to be honest? Yes, but sometimes honesty could be a sword that you use with your ego as its body to turn other people into dust. Not that you do this, I mean people do this. Okay, it could be empowering to be kind, or it could be manipulative to be kind. Knowing that this too cannot last can make everything feel important. That there are answers in the Torah and the Masoret. Thinking that can mean I don't have to think. I just have to see what it says without questioning whether what it says applies to my actual situation or not. So I'm sure that people who have these traits, this could be used for the negative. You have to make a choice to use things for the positive. Tikva says, okay, one moment. How could that be a negative thing, simcha? Simcha could be very negative. It could lead to complacency. It could lead to unreality. Olga says, what to do if I was not right to someone and this person already passed away? So as I said, if it was something major, you might really do well to try to find out where they're buried and to go to the tomb, say a parak of Tehillim, and ask forgiveness. Diane says she loved music, learning responsibility, being kind to others. I learned God's world is beautiful. Okay, Tina says I'm a loving bubby, an excellent hearing therapist, and my bubby is not bunny, right? Yes. Okay, so all of these things are about free choice. And this is the main point that I was trying to make throughout this lecture. Knowing yourself means questioning, who am I on the basis of the questions we learned, and making a whole cheshbon nefesh. But then you look at your heredity and your environment. There are 3 more things. Okay, the 3 other things are you also, if you want to know who you are, you have to look at your potentials. You have to be able to ask yourself, did I live up to them? Did I use them well? Another thing you have to look at is the choices you've made up until today. So, one of our members, one of the people in our community is 80, and she's asked, could I still change? Of course this is valuable. But the reason why her question is a question is by the time a person is 80, they made lots of choices. And it's reasonable for her to question whether changing is possible. Of course it is. But you have to really, really, really question where your choices have taken you. And then you ask the obvious question. What was I thinking and feeling when I made the choices I now am pleased that I made? And what was I thinking and feeling when I made choices that I now regret? So the purpose there isn't to bathe in regret. The purpose there is to notice your thoughts and feelings. Okay, so all of the good things that you learned, I want to share them. The best things in life are not things. That was very wise from Sidney Horn-Klein. Okay, Jackie says he feels empowered and grateful. Okay, Olga says feeling family and close relationships. Miriam says feeling fortunate. Okay, Chavi says looking at the positive. Diane says giving of myself to others. Tirza says being open to criticism. Love builds esteem. Learning is pleasurable. People can change. Give respect to all people. These are all things that you learn and they become you. Now Michael asks, what happened if one was asked what one did to a friend, say nothing, but you cut the friend out of one's life, and they ask a few months later, and again, what did they do? And what is vague and basically cuts them out. It was years back. This treatment caused one tsar and also requires one to ask mechila even so many years down the line, or leave and daven for rachamim from Hashem. Can this type of action cause one tsar as part of midah keneged midah? Look, we all make mistakes. A mistake is to not give somebody a chance to rectify, but there are reasons people do this. They say it's nothing, because admitting being hurt, and this is what was mentioned earlier, admitting being hurt makes you vulnerable, and there are people who are afraid to be vulnerable. Accept that. Accept it and let it go. Okay. So Sophia writes, I have a hard time in respecting those who have less intellect, and I struggle with appreciation of simple-minded people. So go back. When did you learn that? How do you feel? Okay. My grandparents, especially my grandfather, gave me a love of Yiddishkeit. He was an Orthodox cantor in 2 shuls. How beautiful. That was Rhonda Stock speaking. Okay. So what does knowing yourself mean? A very important question asked by Shana Drury. Knowing yourself means seeing yourself in the spiritual mirror, seeing yourself as you really are. Now, we have very little time left, so I want to use this time to get into 2 more things. One is, besides the choices we make, we have habits that we developed, habits of response that we don't even think about. So part of Elul is learning to think. But another part of Elul is recognizing that all of this will not work unless you ask Hashem to help you. And this is why Elul is such a special time. The very famous acronym for Elul is Ani v'dodi v'dodi li. I'm for my beloved, meaning Hashem, and He's for me. You are for your beloved, what you define as good, the part of you that you want to come forth, the honest part, the kind part, the idealistic part, the part that wants to overcome obstacles. That's the Tselem Elokim in you. You want connection to that. Now is the time to say, Ani l'dodi, I want to have attachment to Hashem, because that's what all of this self-improvement is about. I want the attachment and ask Hashem for it. So there are several ways that this happens. One is through making this cheshbon nefesh, asking forgiveness and giving forgiveness. The second is giving more tzedakah in Elul than you would give. Why? Because the truth is, when you expect something of someone, you're disappointed if they don't live up to it, and they're disappointed. This is called midas hadin. Hashem expects things from us. When we say, I could see somebody is really needy, maybe they brought it upon themselves, maybe they didn't, but I'm helping them, that draws down enormously compassionate spiritual force. So what are we saying? Make a cheshbon nefesh, ask forgiveness, give more tzedakah than you normally do. There's a Tehillim 27, L'David Hashem Ori V'ishi. Read the Tehillim. We're going to discuss it in the next segment. It's going to change you. Okay, so this is it for now. And I'm just going to finish up by reading 2 more things that people wrote, so you can have your voice, and then we're going to end it for now. Not in terms of the broadcast. There's much more to say in the broadcast. But in terms of these 5 things that you have to acknowledge. So it's so much for your benefit than theirs. When you let go of your negative feelings, you feel lighter. This is absolutely true. Bunny writes this. Okay, Hammer writes, please recap the 3 alternatives. Heredity, environment, potentials, choices, and habits. Diana writes, I know I was stupid when I was young. My dad and I didn't get along when I was young, but I learned from him to be a good person. Great. So what do you think you should focus on for your own self-improvement? Okay. So Arthur says, thank you, and wishes me a wonderful Easter, and thanks me for a class, but the class isn't over. We just finished this segment. Now Kurt says, and this is a deep thing, I wanted to make peace with my wife, from whom I'm currently separated. Okay, so what I would advise you, Kurt, please write me a personal letter, and I'll answer you by email. My email is Tziporah, Tziporah 48 @gmail.com. Okay, Mary Ellen says, I think I had 3 wrong. Again, heredity, environment, potentials. Okay, you remember that? Okay, choices and habits. And Yomi Krasenstein is online. I remember you very well from Sydney. You helped me before my husband died with bipolar. I remember this very well. Baruch Hashem, I got married to a man in Los Angeles. We have 9 kids. Baruch Hashem. Wow. Thank you for telling me. I read it out loud. I'm so sorry. I got that first before you said no need to read. Okay. Okay. Take us to repeat my email. I'll repeat it now, and I'll repeat it at the end of the broadcast. My email is Tziporah, Tziporah, 48 @gmail.com. And about recordings and all of this, you have to listen to all of the stuff that's going to continue with. You're going to find out more about how to hear more of this, how to get recordings, etc., etc. So please, let's hear more.
Okay, so first I just want to say, I can see also people asking, how to continue on with Rebbetzin Heller. So we're going to go ahead and answer that right away. And any questions that you still have that we didn't have a chance to get to, we still have some time. So please continue to write in your questions. Rebbetzin Heller will be here answering those as well. So I have to, pose to the rest of the community here, who is ready to continue on with Rebbetzin Heller over the next 4 weeks leading up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to continue to grow and find those things that we can improve upon ourselves. Just come on back and let me know. Write yes in the question box, and I will go ahead and answer all of those questions for you. Yes, I would love to continue. Definitely me. Yes, yes. Wonderful. Okay, good. I'm so glad. Okay, so as I expected, of course, people are really excited about that. So let me tell you exactly what those classes will include. Let me go here and make sure that you can see this as well. Okay, over the next 4 weeks, we're going to delve further into how do you find your own godliness. That will come in next week's class, a study of the 13 attributes of mercy and how to access them. Then we're going to see how to choose your new path, embracing the mitos that you already have in a positive and empowered way. Followed by making the most of Rosh Hashanah, gain a deeper understanding of the prayers and how they change you and your fate for the coming year. And finally, make your tshuva stick. Create a game plan for this coming year to help you succeed. So as you can see, each of our ongoing live classes will be on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Israel time, except for that last week of Rosh Hashanah when the class will be on Thursday instead. And we're starting this coming Tuesday, September 10th. There's no time to waste. We are only 4 weeks away, but don't worry if you can't attend a live class. A recording will be available to you in your own personal membership area just 24 hours after the live class takes place so that you can listen to or download it at your convenience. Even if you are able to make the live classes, oftentimes we have our community members listen to the recordings as well so that they can take notes. We also do offer notes to go along with those, but it helps you just to really get that information into your head. Plus, not only do you get the 4 weeks of live classes with Rebbetzin Heller, where you'll also be able to get all of your questions answered, we're also giving you the bonus series on the secrets to Shalom Bias. In this series, you will gain a deeper understanding of yourself by learning the purposefulness of marriage and how to remain in a constant state of renewal and faith. Plus, Israel in Exile. In this series, you'll explore the story of Israel and learn how to take advantage of the opportunity to live in Israel or stay connected even from afar. See how the prayers in Shemona Esrei express our ultimate longing for the land. And transforming your relationship with Hashem. In this series, Rebbetzin Heller gives us concrete ways to build our trust in Hashem through self-awareness. She provides 7 thoughts to help us overcome anxiety and temptation and allow ourselves to move forward. So as you can see, by joining today, you'll get an entire month of guidance leading up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to truly help you become the person you want to be this year. an invaluable package of live classes plus the pre-recorded bonus series to listen to at your convenience to take you on a full journey of understanding, rejuvenating, and perfecting your soul so that you can discover how to systematically elevate yourself to a better version of you than you were last year. You'll be able to feel confident that this year you will go into the holidays feeling connected to the essence of what the holidays are all about. Utilizing Elul to deepen your connection to God and feel proud of what you have accomplished during this important time. Also discover what it is that makes this time period so significant and what incredible feats you can achieve by tapping into the energy of the holiday season. And finally, develop a deeply ingrained understanding of what is required of you and what you are capable of as you stand in prayer throughout Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. An opportunity like this doesn't come along often, so we want to make this important series as accessible as possible. So we've put a simple payment plan option in place, and now you can join Rebbetzin Heller and people from around the world on this journey for a special introductory discounted price of only 2 payments of $97. So instead of the usual 3 payments, you'll only pay 2 payments of $97 for the introductory rate, which lasts for the next 24 hours. And you'll get the full 4 weeks of how to reignite your soul, plus the bonus series of The Secrets to Shalom Bayis, Israel in Exile, and Transforming Your Relationships with Hashem. But before I share the link with you, I'm going to go ahead and put that into your chat box in just a minute. I also want to make sure that you understand that not only will you get these amazing things, but we're also giving you the opportunity, as we mentioned earlier, to join Rebbetzin Heller's online community of people across the globe that meet every week to learn about different topics and share questions and experiences related to the current topics on hand. So for current members of Rebbetzin Heller's community, you will already get to partake in this upcoming series as part of your membership. But for those of you who are not yet members, by joining now, not only will you get the full month of Reigniting Your Soul, you also have the opportunity to do a full month in addition to that for free in Rebbetzin Heller's ongoing community. That means connecting or reconnecting with Rebbetzin Heller on a more personal basis and from any part of the world. So as soon as this course is over, you'll get to continue on for the next full month for no additional charge. And those classes continue on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Israel time. And in order to go ahead and secure your spot now, I'm going to go ahead and put the link right in here. It's www.jewishworkshops.com/Elul. I put that into your chat box. It's going to be up on your screen right now. You can continue to listen. We're going to answer lots of questions, but please go ahead and make sure that you take advantage of this special introductory discounted rate and secure your spot now. As soon as you do, just come on back to the question box and put your first name and the words "I'm in" so that I can welcome you to our community. And like I said, I will continue to answer questions, and Rebbetzin Heller is here to take more questions as well. But as spots fill up, I'm going to see people joining. I will be happy to welcome you and then make sure that we still have some spots left. So make sure that you grab your spot now, www.jewishworkshops.com/Elul. If you have any trouble signing up or need help, please come back to the question box and put your name and your telephone number. Hannah's here on the line with me, and she would be happy to go ahead and give you a quick call in order to help you register. Adina will be here as well. She can help you register. So we're here standing by to help and make sure you get your spot. Like I said, we're starting next Tuesday already, so we don't have a lot of time. If you need help, come on back and put your name and number. Otherwise, I am excited to see you go ahead and sign up and just come on back and write the words "I'm in" to let me know. And I see that people are already in, so that's really exciting. Welcome to Carla. Welcome, Tina. Wonderful to see both of you in. And some other people are writing in their phone numbers for questions. So no problem. We will help you get in as well, just by giving you a call and helping you register over the phone. Come on back and let me know when you're in, and let me see if I have some other questions here.
So shall I be going back to some of the questions that were asked in the meantime?
Yeah, if you find some of those questions, that would be great.
Okay, great. Okay, hold on. Some questions came in before the end of last class. Okay. I was raised Orthodox, however. I was also a child of the 60s. I felt shunned by my family and having a very hard time reconnecting with my heritage. Okay, so this is a very important. Bonnie asked this. So the first thing you should acknowledge to yourself is that you will never abandon God. You were shunned by your family. Okay, so again, that's on the outside. Your response was to leave because no one wants to be shunned. That's understandable. The question is that response one that is getting you to be where you want to be? There's nothing about whatever your family did or said, but if you put it on one side of the scale, losing your relationship with God is worth it. So my strong suggestion to you is to go back to God in your own way, in your own time, begin learning again, go back to the things that are possibly less visually observable, because it'll make it easier for you to change from the inside out. And feel free to write to me. It's a very important and beautiful question that you asked. Okay, there was another question. Okay, one moment. Okay. Wait, no, it got me back to Romy. I don't know why that happened.
I have another one that came in.
When a child, what? I have a question from Olga, maybe. Oh, it says Olga has left, though. Okay, what did you want to say?
Sure. I have one that came in. How do you get out of your own way to start better patterns of behavior in the new year? I always have good intentions, but things like perfectionism get in my way.
Well, I'll give you the honest answer. The honest answer is you have to listen to not this class, and not next class, but the class after that. I have a whole hour on that. It's very hard for me to contain it in a few sentences. But what I will say right now is you have to have a plan and you have to ask Hashem. It's not going to happen spontaneously. Okay, Andy writes, thank you to Rebbetzin Heller for this very helpful and thought-provoking class. If you have hereditary mental biological symptoms like bipolar, are you responsible for your reactions when medicine isn't always working? Obviously not completely, but anyone who suffers from mental illness, and I have my own little theory that everyone has a little mental illness. That's another. But Freud would define mental illness as something that's so strong that it makes you unable to work or to love. And everybody has some times when they can't work or they can't love. But in any case, when you have real mental illness to the point that you can't live and you can't love, of course you're not responsible. Just like a man with one arm isn't expected to put on tefillin. You're only expected to make choices where choices are possible. I have a close friend who has bipolar syndrome. I visit her frequently. I could tell you two things about her. When she's crazy, but she's never told a lie, and she's extremely idealistic and good to people. And both things are true.
Great. Thank you so much. I just want to go ahead and welcome a few more people. Welcome, Alex. Great to have you. Welcome, Romy. Wonderful to have you as well. It does look like people are continuing to come on back, and let me know. Just when you are registered, please let me know with the words "I'm in" and your name. And again, if you're having any difficulties signing up, please come on back with your phone number so that we can reach out to you and help you as well. I would just want to go over some things that I may have gone through a little too quickly. So in answer to your question, Sarah, all of the classes are going to be taking place on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Israel time. If you can't make it to a live class, please don't worry. We do have recordings available to you the very next day so that you can listen to and download those at your convenience. You can always reach out to us at Jewish Workshops if you have questions that you want to be presented on the webinar itself if you can't make it live, so that we can make sure that Rebbetzin Heller addresses those. And you can also email Rebbetzin Heller directly during the 4-week period so that you can make sure to get any questions answered. Again, whether you're on the live classes or not, but I just don't want you to feel like you're missing out if you can't make it to that live class. Plus the bonus series that are here on the screen, and if you're calling in, you can't see that necessarily, but like I said, you get the full 4 weeks of Reigniting Your Soul this Elul, plus the bonus series are all pre-recorded. Those will be available to you in your own personal membership area where you can listen to those and download them at your convenience, and you will have those for a lifetime. So I realize that the Yamim Tovim are very close, like I said, only 4 weeks away, and this can be a very busy time for everybody. So please don't worry about any pressure to listen to all of these things right away. You'll have those available to you. So as we put that game plan together in our last and final week of this series, hopefully part of that game plan will be continuing to inspire and motivate yourself to grow throughout the year, not just during this 1 month of each year, but throughout the year you can continue your learning. And again, as I mentioned, when you sign up and register right afterwards, you'll be able to get that opportunity to take full advantage of a full month free in Rebbetzin Heller's ongoing community. So again, you can continue to learn together with Rebbetzin Heller and people from around the world as we go into creating a new us during this new year. Okay, welcome, Carol. Great to have you as well. Let me go ahead. I'll put that link into your chat box again. It makes it easier, so you can just go ahead and copy and paste it out of here and into another browser while you still listen, and then you can secure your spot that way while we are still going live on the line. If you have any other questions that you'd like to ask Rebbetzin Heller, I do see a few more coming in here. Please come on back and let us know before we close up for the day. Rebbetzin Heller, do you see this
yes,
question?
I do. I see. What does one do? This is my, I just realized your name is Michal, not Michael. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, what does one do when one has family children who don't want to continue with the frum lifestyle? How does one embrace but not judge them, especially during Elul? It's very disappointing. So I'm not going to make light of this. It's devastating. It's worse than having a child who suffered an illness or became handicapped. But the same way you would definitely love a child who is handicapped. And you would look away from the handicapped and just try to heal it as much as you can. That's how you should look at a child who abandoned from lifestyle. So I want to make this clear. Don't accept this as being something okay, just like you would accept a handicap as being okay. It's tragic, but you love a child who suffered a tragedy. Especially during Elul, when basically we want Hashem to do the same for us. Okay. Okay, Diane writes, planning my grandson's bar mitzvah on September 21st. I don't have the time right now traveling back, but these are questions concerning enrollment. So this is what you can answer better than I can. And somebody wrote very movingly that she would definitely, had she not had unusual expenses due to illness, she definitely would have been enrolled. And I just want her to know that I understand her fully.
Okay, great. I see a question was coming in. You had spoken before about, noticing the thoughts and feelings. So what do you do once you notice the thoughts and feelings that resulted in bad choices? How do you move forward from there?
So when you find yourself thinking the same thoughts, realize that if you don't get a grip on yourself, they're going to take you to going where you don't want to go. So for instance, if you notice that you think when your thoughts, when you respond badly, let's say it angers, this is ridiculous. Nobody should have to put up with this. It makes me feel vulnerable. You don't think those words, but let's say that's what's happening. Notice when you feel vulnerable and you feel that you're being singled out and other people wouldn't have to put out with this. you're going to make a bad choice. Answer your negative thinking with the truth. Everything is from Hashem. Lots of people put up with things. Who do I want to be? Notice your negative choices so you can answer them back.
Great, thank you. We did have a few questions that came in ahead of time as well. So again, I urge everyone, if you have questions, please go ahead and put in your questions into the chat box now. We will be closing up in a little bit, so I want to make sure that we can get to as many more as possible. And then some that came in earlier. I have a very difficult relationship with my mother and struggle as I attempt to reinvent my relationship with my kids so that it doesn't mirror that same toxic behavior that I was raised with, but I catch myself falling into the same bad habits.
Yes. So the first thing, which is good, is that you catch yourself. That already puts you 10 steps ahead of the game. You have to learn replacement thoughts and replacement words. Replacement thoughts will, again, I don't know your mother and I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but whatever thoughts generated her response, those are ones you have to have answers to. If what she's saying, that what you're hearing in your head is you have to teach people, otherwise they'll step on you. Let's say that's what you're hearing. Then answer that. God could teach people. And I asked for what's the problem? Why am I making this a problem?
Great, thank you. I just want to go ahead and welcome a few more people here. Welcome Elizabeth, welcome Hannah. Wonderful to have both of you. Let me see who else was here. And welcome Malka. Please come on back and let me know once you're registered. I do want to go ahead and be able to welcome you. Let me see, and we just got a couple more questions here, Rebbetzin Heller. Again, if you're having any technical difficulties or if you have specific questions, please put your name and your telephone number right into the chat box. Once we close up, I won't be able to see any information on how to reach you. So please come on back and let us know now so that we can get in touch with you as soon as the webinar is over. Rebbetzin Heller, we had a question come in. Will we have the time to do the identity work, like review our life's eras during the workshop as well throughout the next 4 weeks?
Only peripherally, because everybody's life is different. So because of this really is work you have to do on your own. And again, my suggestion is don't try to do the whole thing in one shot. Take 20 minutes off just this week. By this time next week, you would have done it. And then if you have questions about it, I could answer them. But the work has to be done by you. There's nobody else who could do it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I want to go ahead and welcome Ruth and welcome Sarah. Wonderful to see both of you as well. Okay, as we go ahead and get closer to the end here, we have another question, Rebbetzin Heller. My adult children are in a feud and bearing grudges. It is really painful to watch. Can or should I do anything other than daven to Hashem for them to make peace?
You daven to Hashem to make peace, and in subtle ways, not overtly, in subtle ways. When you're with, I'm going to name your children Avraham and Sarah. Okay, when you're with Abraham, try to make him feel that you see his side of things and that you understand him and you're on his team. That's step one. And the same thing for Sarah. After they could both see that you're on their team and there has to be some sincerity there, then you could say, and if somebody was in it for you, it's not really worth it for you to stay in this quarrel. But they have to first believe that you're on this team before those words would have any credibility whatsoever.
Okay, perfect. I hope that answered this person's question. Let me see, there are some other questions coming in. I'd like to sign up for the workshop, but I don't see how to do this. You can go straight to www.jewishworkshops.com/Elul, and then Once you're there, it'll show you exactly how to sign up. If you still have any questions, just please come on back and put your phone number in so that we can go ahead and help you register over the phone. Rebbetzin Heller, how does one know what can be reviewed and changed by examining our relationship with Hashem? When is it appropriate to find a therapist or a mashpia to make lasting positive changes?
It's always good to have a mentor. But sometimes mentors don't come a dime a dozen. And sometimes you may have to settle with one person who can give you guidance in the more personal aspects of your spiritual life, somebody else who could answer halachic questions, still a third person who can give you general direction. But there's never a place where having a mentor isn't good. But in the end, the one who's living your life is you. And the one who's writing your ticket on this Rosh Hashanah is you. So use whatever you can gain from mentorship, but realize you have to take responsibility for implementing the advice you receive and from being selective about what sort of advice you find good for you in your circumstances.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have a serious legal situation that I feel helpless in the face of. I don't trust the court of man and have been praying to Hashem, doing Tehillim, and giving as much tzedakah as I possibly can, but I still don't feel like my prayers are being answered. Is there anything I can do to change my fate if it's a negative judgment?
If you're talking about legalities, then you have to realize that if the judges could weigh the case and come to their conclusion, that how you're doing financially this year was determined last year, Rosh Hashanah. This is between you and Hashem. Assuming you've made all of the normal, appropriate sorts of efforts that one should do. You have a lawyer, you went to a good court, and it's still not happening. At this point, you have to let go and say, okay, this is what Hashem decided for me last year. I hope next year will be better. But there's a reason for it, and it could be you'll discover the reason only much later.
Thank you. Okay, as we go ahead and get ready to close up, I just want to welcome Linda, welcome Mary, and welcome, who's that? Yehudis. Great to see all of you. It's wonderful to have all of these new wonderful people in our community. We're very excited to get started next week. Rebbetzin Heller, I just want to say, we still have a few hundred people here on the line. If you can leave us with some closing thoughts as we are getting ready to get started on this next part of our journey. And for those who are still on the fence about joining, if you can just leave us with some parting words, that would be great.
Okay, so the main thing to know when you're trying to get through what Elul could bring you is that your fate is very much in your hands. Hashem will decide what you need on the basis of who you are. He loves you more than you love yourself. He knows you better than you know yourself. But you have to, on your side, you have to open the door. He'll help you. As I said, he loves you more than you love yourself. But you have to open the door. So do whatever you can. If this helps you, then do this. If other things help you, if mentorship helps you, Tehillim certainly will help you. You have to do something. You have to do something to say, I am your servant, draw me closer.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who was here today with us. We're getting some beautiful messages here. Thank you so much, Rebbetzin Heller. This was so enlightening and gave me great insight. Thank you. Thank you. Mary Ellen from Wisconsin wants to say Toda.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you. I
don't have any friends in Wisconsin, so I'm glad to have you aboard.
Thank you to everyone who joined us today from all over the world. Thank you, Rebbetzin Heller, for spending time with us today as well. We're looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible next week. And again, if you continue to have any questions or need help, I'm going to leave the webinar open. You won't be able to hear us. We're going to have the webinar muted, but I'll leave it open so that you still have a chance to get your name and phone number in here if you need some help registering. So we will go ahead and leave that open. Thank you again. Looking forward to seeing you and have a wonderful Shana Tova Umituka. Thank you.
Okay, bye.